Good morning. Welcome back to Smart Social Secrets Tips. This is Cami Hoysa, and I'm here to talk to you about my recent launch. Sorry, I'm a few minutes late. The internet was out for a minute. That's how live video works. So, anyway, I'm really glad to be here, and I'm glad to be sharing with you the recent launch of Smart Social Mastery and kind of what happened with that, what we did, sort of where we went with that. And I'm really excited to talk to you about that in detail and just give you guys some ideas of what we did. So yeah, it was really a very good launch. We ended it was last week, and we got 16 new members into this new minimum viable product. So I don't know if you are aware of what a minimum viable product is and how it could benefit you and your business, but I do want to just kind of jump into the different pieces of that product and just kind of give you an idea of what it could be for you and your brand. So cool. Let me know if you're here by leaving a comment saying, hey, I'm here. Tell me you're here as I go through all of this. But I'm going to walk you through my thinking on creating this product and sort of how you can kind of think about it for your own business. Because I do believe that a minimum viable product for your business can be a really great way to have a kind of bring in new life to your business. So number one is research. So that is literally the first thing that you must do in depth. And I might have spent too much time in the research. I mean, I might have because, I think that you can overthink it sometimes too. But really understanding who you're going to help and how you're going to help them is super critical for this process because it's going to help you to really understand what they need and then deliver something that they need. So that's kind of the first thing that happened as I had a lot of research. And when I say research, I had an idea of what I wanted to do, and I will kind of give you that here in a minute. But one of the things I really wanted to do was to like narrow my overall audience. So last year before, I think at this point, I launched a course, an online course, and it was called Smart Social Secrets. I still have it. I'm going to probably relaunch it again sometime this year as an evergreen product. But that was a cohort product where we launched and we worked with a group of people for 6 weeks. And it was for small business owners, and it's really great for that. It really works to help a small business owner put together a social media plan for their business. But for some of them, it was a little bit too advanced. And for some of them, I think it was, exactly right. So what I noticed is that the people that were had businesses that were social media, marketing, PR, those communications businesses, they really picked it up a lot faster, right? Because, well, that makes sense, right? Because they understand the concepts a little bit better. So that's really what I noticed right away is that those people were a little bit more able to do that. And so as I was thinking through it, I own an agency, Zoetica Media, and my agency has a specific client type. We usually work for internal comms professionals, like a head of marketing, head of public relations, those kinds of companies. And then we help them as an extension of their staff. So we can come in and we can do all of their social media. We can do the community management part, and we sound just like them. Like we are part of their team. So it's almost like you hired us, but you didn't hire us, as an employee. And so that really is where we shine, I think, as an agency. And so because of that, I think that we work really well with PR and marketing professionals. And of course, I am a PR professional. I started my career in PR way, way back. And so that's the way I think and talk and everything else. So I think that we can help them the most. And so I wanted to narrow my focus for this next product because I wanted to create a ongoing membership. And that is what we did. So I sat down with, really independent public relations and marketing professionals and asked them questions like, what are you struggling with the most? What are you having the hardest time with? What do you really want to do? And what I came up with was that these people that have these smaller businesses, and maybe you too, but you want to think about your audience. They have a couple of problems that are pretty pervasive. Number one, they have a hard time, even though they're helping other people promote themselves constantly, they have a hard time taking time out to promote their own business. And so I realized that that was a huge thing, was the accountability piece. Like, people really needed a place to be accountable. So that was what I found out in the research, just really deep research, like not, going online or doing surveys. I didn't do a lot of that, although I did. I listened to what people's questions were in groups. I wrote things down. I have something I call the word vault, where I pull things in and put them in to a kind of a format. So, but more than that, I sat down with people and talked to them, either on a Zoom call. I had lunches with people. I just talked to people until I heard exactly what I thought was their problem, and validated that that was their problem. And then um, a uh, I created a product or a service that solved that problem. That was what I did. So instead of trying to like create the thing and then sell the thing, I instead talked to the people and created the thing based on what they wanted. So that was number one, was research. Number two was really creating an entry point that fits my people and gets them results. So one of the hardest things to do is to get people to sign up for anything these days, and it's just impossible almost. So you have to like, I mean, even if you're selling like a $20,000 contract or like $100 a month product, which that's what I have, it's almost the same. You have to do the same work. So the more the more you charge, hey, there you go. But I mean, you're going to get more of the people at the lower price point. Anyway, there you go. But the bottom line is that you need to create an entry point for people that into your product or your service that makes it easy for them to step in. So what I did is I put together their biggest problem. One of the biggest problems was creating content, because that's really the key, right? This content creation thing for social media it's time consuming. I mean, let's just be realistic. It's super time consuming. Even if you have a system, you are going to take some time to do these things. I mean, you have to get on the live stream and talk to people like I'm doing right here, or you have to write a blog post, which for me takes about 2 hours. To write a really good research, you know, article, blog post, whatever, it takes me 2 hours at least. I mean, and I'm fast. So I would just say, I wrote a blog for many, many, many years, and that's what it took me. It took me 2 hours. So I'd have to block off 2 hours on my calendar and create that thing. And so that's really one of the biggest problems that they had, was that they didn't have time to do that. They weren't blocking off the time, even though they knew they should block off the time. They needed the time. So one of the components I wanted to do right away was put together a challenge or something like that to get them to have some of that content created like immediately. And so that is what I did. I put together a 2-hour workshop. And the reason I did a 2-hour workshop instead of like a 5-day challenge or 10-day challenge, I mean, people have like 30-day challenges now. I've seen it for reels and other things, and it works for some people, but for this group of people, because again, I went out and figured out exactly who I was reaching. That was number one, research, right? Is knowing exactly. They're time starved. They don't have the time. And for that reason, that's why I put together an entry point, and I called it the Instant Authority Workshop. We put together 90 days worth of content ideas in 2 hours. And honestly, by the time we got to the point where they were putting the content ideas down, it took them 17 minutes to put together about 15 to 20, maybe 30 ideas. And so that is the power of this. They walked away going, oh my gosh, I've got like a plan. And that's really what they need, right? I knew they needed a plan. And I know they didn't have lots of time. I wanted 2 hours of their time, which even that was a big ask. Some of them were like, yeah, I got to move to the next meeting. It's almost like if I could do it in an hour, it would be better. But I don't know if I could get through the whole process in an hour. And then I also taught them some other things on the backside. And in that, it wasn't a webinar also. That was the other thing. Like, a lot of people sell their online products these days through a webinar, which is great for most audiences. But for my audience, I knew they would not be this webinar thing. That was not going to work with them. They just don't, they're jaded. They've been through a million webinars. I don't even want to do one for them. And so we did this workshop, and I did present my offer. And what was hilarious about it is somewhere in the middle, I told them I was going to present the offer at the end. And one of the people said, hey, I have to go pretty soon. Can you just go ahead and present that offer now? And so they actually asked me to present the offer earlier than I was planning on doing it. So that was really kind of interesting. I learned a lot from that. I also learned that I need to present it earlier because, yeah, a lot of people did drop off toward the end because they had to move on to the next thing. And so I presented the offer, and then afterwards I kept teaching. And actually, I think that works really well because that also makes it not all about the offer. Anyway, long story short, we had 40 people that signed up for the Instant Authority workshop. And actually, like 10 of them signed up the day before. And most of those that signed up the day before did not show up, which is interesting. So I had 40 that signed up, 20 showed up. And then of that, 16 um, took the course. And one of them actually came from a referral from somebody who was at the Instant Authority workshop. So that was my mechanism for this specific audience because they needed it to be quick, right? They needed it to be quick. So that's kind of how we work that. And then the third thing is then I wanted to give them a pathway to shortcut their results. So number one, the research. Number two, create an entry point that fits them. Again, the Instant Authority workshop. And number three, I gave them a pathway to shortcut their results. And so inside of my program, which is called Smart Social Mastery, I have a really a pathway to mastery of visibility content and visibility for yourself and your business. And it is very much tailored to the consultant that has a client that have clients that they help because it shows them how to use social media as a tool, not like, it's not at the end all like, let's get 10,000 people to follow me on Instagram. No, like how do you bake these authority things, the social media platforms into your overall business goals and how does it help you to reach that? So I have something I call the pathway to mastery, but it's like 6 things that I feel like you must do in order to do that. And so I'll actually pull this up real quick so you can see one of them. I think I have it on here where did I put the pathway to mastery in here? Hopefully I did for you. Yep, here it is. So I am going to share this little slideshow that I shared with them just to kind of show you how that worked. And the pathway to mastery is this. The first step is really that explore, and that's about exploring yourself. Like, who are you? How are you different? How do you stand out in your marketplace? What is it about you that does that? So that's the explorer side of it. So that's the first thing that I think people have to nail when you come out into social media and you are doing authority pieces. You need to stand out in some way. What is it about you that's different than everybody else? And you're going to attract some people and repel some people. And that is fine. That's what you want. So you want to start thinking about that. And especially with algorithms and ads and everything being what they are, things are changing a lot in social media on the platforms themselves. And the messaging is becoming even more important than it ever was. Because even though you can target people with ads and stuff, they've actually lowered the number of targeting options in the advertising sections. And now they're saying, hey, like send it out to a wider audience and Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, whoever, we will help you find the right people. Well, the problem is they show it to a lot of people. So now you have to have your messaging really clear about who you are and who you serve and how you help people. It has to even be more clear than it used to be so that you can get them. Anyway, that's number one. Number two is really about connecting. And this is even before the content, knowing what your audience, who your audience is and what they want. I've already talked about that, so I'm not going to go too much more in depth than that. But in the pathway to mastery inside the program, I teach them how to do that. Then the next thing, really step 3 is really about that architecting. So once you know who they are and what they are, then you can build it, right? You don't build it and then they'll come. You know who they are and then you build it for them. And that's when they come. And then comes creation. So number 4 is creation. So, you'll have much better content if you go through the first 3 steps, right? Because you know who you're helping, you know how you're serving them, you know all those things. And that's going to make you much more confident in what you do. Okay, so that's number 4. And then on the pathway to mastery, then you come to the attraction stage. So once you have started to create content and so on, like where do they go? Where do you send them? Like, is there a landing page? Do you have a funnel? Like, how do you deal with them? This was a place that I stumbled on for so many years. I created so much great content. I was building an email list, but I had nothing to sell them. I had nothing to give them. And so when people would ask me like, hey, can Can we work with you deeper? Unless they were a mid-sized to large company that needed an extension of staff, which my team does amazing. We're really great at that. I couldn't help them, right? So I wanted to create a product that I could help people that came to me and asked these questions. And so that's what Smart Social Mastery is and why I wanted to create it. And then the final thing is innovation, which is when, like, once you have done all these things, you might want to innovate more, like scale up, do more. But I think starting small is so important. And that's really the other thing I wanted to talk to you about is the MVP concept, which hopefully some of you have heard about this before. Hey, Scott, thank you. I'm glad you're here. So the MVP is minimum viable product. So let me explain that piece of this a little bit. So once you have done your research, you've created an entry point that people can come into your program, and you've given them a pathway. You have a pathway that I just showed you. I have a pathway for them once they're in. Um, I have not created all the content in the pathway yet, even though I've already sold the program. And here's why. I started this as a founder's launch. So I was real clear with my audience that I was launching this and I was going to build it along the way. And the reason why is because when I put together my course about 2 years ago, I stayed up nights and weekends, and I was putting all the content together, and and then I put the people through it. And as they went through, then I noticed that there were some things they didn't understand, that they needed more help on. And actually, in the middle of the program, when I did the course, I went back and changed the entire last module during the course because I knew that we were going to get there and they were not going to be able to understand it. It was too complicated. It was too complex. It was too advanced. And so I went back and I pulled back on it and tried to simplify it. Well, here I'm going with them, and I'm going to be quizzing them in the next week or so to find out where on that pathway I just showed you they are. And then I'll build that content first. So if a bulk of them are, need to get there, I suspect they're going to need 1 and 2, that they need some ideas of how their superpowers are there. They'll know what they are, but they need to refine that a bit. And the creator and the connector part, like who they're helping, even though they know who they're helping, nobody wants to boil it down. I didn't want to do it either. Nobody wants to only talk to one audience. They're afraid of it. They're afraid they won't have enough people. They're afraid it's not going to be attractive enough. But as soon as you do it, as soon as you're willing to do it, go all the way down to like, this is who I'm helping, then it opens the doors. And by the way, I do have a few people in the group that don't fit the mold. Like I have a pediatric dentist, for example, but definitely doesn't fit the mold of like a communicator business that's helping clients. But I'm going to work her through this process too. So it's not like you will not get some of these people. It's just that you need to bring the right people in that have the right mindset and attitude, so that way you can help them the most. And then you can do this minimum viable product, and you can create as you go along based on what they need. You need to have an overall framework that you've thought through. I pretty much think I know what they need and what they want, but guess what? They may surprise me along the way. There may be something I didn't think about. Like yesterday, I was helping somebody with how to put together a DBA in their state that's doing business as, so that they make sure that they set their business up right. So that's somebody that's kind of in the beginning stages of this. They're really, really seasoned communicators. They've done amazing work, but now they've started their own consultancy on the side, or freelance business, whichever. So that is why a minimum viable product is so powerful. It's so powerful because you can start with the concept of what you think that people need, and then tweak it as you go along to specifically meet their needs. And then you don't stay up nights and weekends creating stuff. And that is something I don't want to do right now. I'm going to be super honest with you. It's really hard. There's a lot going on otherwise. Oh, hey, Duran's here too. Hey, how are you doing? It's good to see you. Good to see you. Good. And so those are the actionable steps of really creating that minimum viable product for your customer, is that you want to make sure that it is specific. Now, from that point of view, then you will have a great program that you can put together. So let me see. Oh, so again, the launch results, I'll tell you how it went. So I made a really basic landing page. I used ConvertKit to do that, to make a really basic landing page for the Instant Authority workshop. That was free. That was a 2-hour workshop for free. And then I have ThriveCart, which is a tool that I love. I should probably have grabbed these links for you guys, and I will real quick. But ThriveCart is really cool because I was able to pay, like, at some point I paid one price for it and I never have to pay for it again. And they still have that deal on their website. So I will definitely drop the link here in just a minute for ThriveCart. But I built a sales page on ThriveCart. And I still feel like that sales page needs a lot of work because it didn't convert as high as I would have wanted it to. But I was converting to a very warm audience because most of the people signed up through the Instant Authority workshop, right? So they just went there and they paid. The actual page itself didn't sell them. It was the actual authority workshop that sold them, because I had 40 people that signed up. I told you 20 of them showed up to the workshop and 16 of them bought, which is a very high conversion rate. If you ask anyone in the industry, it's a super high conversion rate, but that was to a very warm audience. So I have an email list. Some people will say, well, you'll have a big email list. And I do. I have about a 2,500 person email list, but I did not send this out to my whole email list. I did in the PSs and stuff, but I didn't do the entire sales sequence to the whole list. I went through painstakingly and picked people that I thought were, consultants, and I tried to get that, figured out. And that was what I did. So it ended up being like 500-ish people on the email list. So it wasn't a huge email list, really. And the way that you build an email list is put together some kind of product that shortcuts people's results, like a lead magnet, people call them, but I hate that term per se. But is there something that you can offer that will shortcut people's results or get them ready to work with you? Those are kind of the things. Like, what is it that would get somebody ready to work with you? And make that your lead magnet. Go out and nurture, give out free content, use social media, do these live streams, whatever, and then get people onto your list so that they can then you can start to sell them about that. So, and the way to get them on your list is you don't have to be like, hey, sign up for my list, although you can. But also you can run ads to these kinds of videos and stuff that I'm doing right now, and give people a way to sign up for your list through that video. So there's a lot of really cool ways you can do this, and that's really how you build an email list over time. So anyway, long story short, we had a really good, I think, first founding group. I did give them a huge discount for the founding group, again, because I'm doing an MVP. So all of the content isn't there yet. This will eventually be a $97 a month product where you can join as a membership. And we have accountability groups. We have co-working groups. We have accountability threads. I've got a really specific way I'm handling this, and less is more for this group. So I'm trying to keep it really basic for them with lots of results all the time. That's the key to what I'm trying to do there. So that is all of it. So that is the results. That's kind of behind the scenes of what happened with the launch. I think it went really well, considering that we were definitely doing a beginner's launch, kind of a new launch. Let me actually stop sharing my screen so I can see you too. And I've lost you. Is that fun? I always love it when I lose my, oh, here we go. I'm back. So anyway, so that is basically what we have. Again, I will give you some links here. I'll go back and change some of the links in the description so you can see some of the things I use, ConvertKit specifically, and then ThriveCart were the easy ways, just really minimum viable ways of getting this out to the public and selling it. So that's pretty much it. If you have any questions, definitely leave them in the comments and I will definitely answer them. It's 10, so I'm going to run, but definitely let me know if you have any questions, and I appreciate you dropping by. Take care.